Hey there, this is Anthony Metivier from magneticmemory.com. This video is for those people who want to use mnemonics better to remember vocabulary and phrases in their language learning journey. We're going to use some ancient Greek and Latin memory palace quantum leap examples, one core one in particular. I'm going to show you one particular word, the most important Greek word that I know, and I'm just so excited to share that with you. This video is for people who are interested in digging in. So if that's not you right now, just save this for later. But if you want a tutorial with no stone left unturned, with the real secret of what it takes to have a quantum leap in your journey using memory techniques as part of language learning, this video is for you, and that's coming right up. All right, so memory techniques, mnemonics, they're sometimes untranslatable until that you are on the journey. You often can't understand what it is that's going on until you just dive in. You watch some of my videos, like my free video course on how to make a memory palace. You've actually done the exercise that I teach you in that video, and taking the extra step and proving it to me by sending me an image of your memory palace. And that's where the results really happen. That's where you start to translate the untranslatable. So in other words, to riff on this wonderful book that I hope that you'll read and listen to this NPR interview about translating the untranslatable, the way that you get results is that you start to enter the territory and you create a map of the territory as you're going along. You can't just sit there and consume the information and save it as data for later. Now that said, you do want to sit down and learn something so that you can apply. That's what this video is all about. But I want you to have a little bit of a meta level understanding that mnemonics, memory techniques can be very, very mysterious. And the way that you clear up the mystery is that you take action. And there are plenty of materials out there. I am quite confident that the best memory palace creation training is available through magneticmemorymethod.com. If you haven't taken that free course, just go over there because you're going to love it. And it's provided you take action, you're going to be able to translate the untranslatable and understand what this is all about. So let's look at a wonderful letter that I just received from someone named Raymond, who exemplifies this process and this concept and this reality very, very clearly. He took the free course. He says, "Dear Dr. Metivier, I've watched these videos. Thank you for sending them, and you will get them by registering at magneticmemorymethod.com. I heard about your website after listening to your Greek vocab book on Audible, and I'd heard about memory palaces maybe a decade ago back in college and had always wanted to invest in them, but never got around to it. Listening to your book gave me the impetus to actually start. I've already spent many hours working on memory palaces for the 12 apostles, the 21 ecumenical councils, and paradigms for nouns and adjectives in classical Greek, and more besides. I remember my Greek teacher in college referring to the forest of Greek verbs. Well, I'm making her comment literal, changing a patch of forest on the school where I teach into a mnemonic smorgasbord for the vast variety showcased in ancient Greek's verbal system. I wish I had taken this stuff seriously when I was back in college because things are sticking so much better now." Now, this has a lot of interesting points, but first of all, I want to thank you for grabbing How to Learn and Memorize Greek Vocabulary. How to Learn and Memorize Latin Vocabulary is available as well. These books are really instruction manuals. So if you're interested in something that just cuts to the chase, gives you step-by-step action, but it's also designed for people who have different learning styles. So I always try to tell you what the technique is, why it's important, how to use it, and just the action steps, what to do right now, because there are different learning styles out there. And one of the things that mnemonics can help you do is understand your learning style and really, really dive in the best possible way because you know what that is. You're informed by how you learn, because we don't all learn the best. And that's what memory techniques are so good for. But one thing that I think is very, very universal is that we all have spatial memory and we can activate it. And that's why I push on this memory palace thing so much. And it's why the ancients pushed on it. The ancients gave the memory palace such a hard push that it has lasted to the time that I'm making this video in the 21st century. Isn't that the most exciting thing in the world? What other technology do you know of that has lasted so long? and virtually unchanged except for the modifications and the variations that have been created by the people who think very deeply about this topic and modify it. So, you can watch all the videos in the world, you can read my books, and I'm really grateful that you do, because there are secrets to unlock from them. But as I said, ultimately, at the end of the day, it needs to be translated into action. So there is something untranslatable until that you take action. So thank you for reading the book and taking action, because you're obviously having an amazing adventure. And you continue to say, Raymond, and thank you very much for this email. I've also been sharing Memory Palace technique with the 111 students I teach. Thank you for doing that. That is the most important contribution in the world, because this is a oral tradition, the Memory Palace, and it is so wonderful that you would do this. And I know that you're probably going to have many hundreds more students to come, and you could potentially have thousands if you make YouTube videos like these. Let's keep the mnemonic renaissance growing, because it's an absolutely amazing thing what's happening to people who just sit down and use these techniques. So as you say, I'm a Latin teacher at a classical charter school near Dallas, Texas. Oh, I want to visit Dallas. It seems like such an amazing place. Many of my students have proved very enthusiastic in creating and sharing memory palaces for Latin vocab, for charts, helping them grapple with the subjunctive mood, etc. They've come up with some awesome compound images to help them remember abstract concepts. I intend next year to have some classes toward the beginning of the school year where we go over mnemonic technique. Why leave them to invent their own wheel when you can share the blueprint for no cost to anyone? Oh, and I told them last week that smoking pot doesn't help their memory, because you sent an email about that. So thanks again very much for catalyzing what is already proving to be a quantum leap in my memory potential. God bless you, Raymond. Well, God bless you as well, Raymond, and thank you for this email. One thing I want to point out here, though, is that you can't share the blueprint for no cost. As I'm trying to explain here, it always costs time and energy. You're always going to invest something in anything. So dive in and try to invest your time and energy in the most intelligent way by having ongoing training. And, there's a lot of training to be had out there. I always like to tell people 1 is the most dangerous number you'll ever know. So if you're just going to one memory guru, that it can help. I mean, you might just lock onto one guy and be like, that's my guy. He's the one. I'm going to stick with him forever and ever. Amen. But that typically, I'm a philosopher by training, and I would never have gone, when I was teaching film studies, to the stage, and I always used philosophy as a tool for unlocking what's going on in movies. I would never go up there and say, read only Plato, read only Jacques Derrida, read only these guys. No, it doesn't make sense. That would be deadly. And I think it's the same when it comes to memory training. Now, that said, you've mentioned that you wish that you would have taken all this seriously, and my response to that is that, yes, there is a certain seriousness that needs to be taken, but we also need some balance. We need to take things not too seriously as well, because this is the beauty of memory techniques, is that learning must be, and it can be fun. It can be extraordinarily fun. It can be overwhelmingly fun in some ways, so we also got to be able to curb our excitement. I have people writing to me often that they just get so obsessed with this that they wind up thinking more about the techniques themselves than actually using them. So that's where fun can be a little bit poisonous, because you want to actually be using them because you get better and better, and then the fun increases, but it's controlled fun, right? So the dance is always kind of in tension with, Apollo and Dionysus, right? You want to find this tension between the drunken wildness of the dance and structure and order. And that's again why memory palaces are such great tools. Now, one of the things that I want to suggest to people watching this is make the decision, be all in, because what happens with something like this is that some people, they just want to test. They just want to try. Just decide that you're going to improve your memory. If the memory palace isn't for you, there's other options. There's other techniques. I think the memory palace is the greatest thing on the planet, and everybody should know how to use it. I think that every single child should have the opportunity to understand it. I was talking with Lynn Kelly, who wrote The Memory Code last week, and I'm editing that interview now. And, she's going into schools. The most amazing things are happening for these children. But one of the things I can tell you, based on her description and just my own experience teaching people, is that the ones who win are all in. So just decide that you're going to do it, and you will just be immersed in a world of miracles for your memory. Now, how do you do this, though? Well, the first thing is you got to create lots of memory palaces. A lot of people, they just create one and they're like, I'm good. No, not really, because you don't really understand the whole principles and all the guidelines that I give. They really work for you when you create memory palaces in multiples, different kinds of memory palaces, indoor memory palaces, outdoor memory palaces. My preference is indoor memory palaces because there's natural structure there. A forest, as you mentioned, Raymond, great. I mean, that works really well for some people. That to me is just too distinct and vague. But I had a guy on a call, a strategy call, and he was talking about how he uses individual trees so wonderfully. And I just thought, oh, wow, I got to try that because I'd love to get that working for me. And, it just kind of involves his what seems to be a preternatural ability to just remember the shapes of trees. So then forget about the forest as the memory palace. Why not just think of the tree as a memory palace? The point is that you get in and you're making lots of memory palaces. And I'll tell you a little bit of a secret here. Memory palace is just a term for location-based mnemonic. Okay, It's about using the structure of space. It's about exercising, improving your spatial memory, and then going on to the next level of the technique, which is association and associating images that are associated with information and then locking those, or magnetizing, as I like to think of it, those images that you create, the mnemonic images, with locations. So a lot of people, they don't like this term memory palace. They'd rather call it a mind palace. There was a guy, I'll never forget him, 88 years old. He said, I just can't get into this. I don't like this term memory palace. I told him, come up with any name that you want. Don't let the terminology get in the way of you. So he came up with apartments with compartments. And I just thought, wow, that's brilliant, right? And after that, he's just soaring. He's emailing me, I memorized a couple hundred vocabulary words. He had a lover in ancient Germany, in Germany, and during the war, they'd lost contact. He wanted to revive his German, and all of a sudden, he's being able to read her letters and do some writing in German. He wanted to memorize poetry. He had 12 poetry, and 12 poems. He was going for massive amounts, like not just short poems, but just long poems, and he had 12 the last time that I spoke with him. And he's 88 years old, and his big barrier was what he was going to call this. It's location-based mnemonics that use your spatial memory, and you can call it whatever you want. I like the term memory palace. I think it's a wonderful term. It means a lot to me. It resonates with me, but don't get hung up on the terminology. Learn the principles, learn the methodology, and then come up with whatever words you like, because you're missing out on the power if the terms, are getting in your way. So the other thing here too is you don't want to trick yourself. A lot of people, they say, yeah, but this is a visual thing, and I don't see pictures in my mind. I can't see pictures in my mind. There's something called aphantasia, and these are people who apparently have no mind's eye. And I've done a lot into this. Apparently 4 people didn't like what I did. 20 people gave it the thumbs up. These things, great. Please click the like buttons on my videos. It really does. I don't know what it does. To tell you the truth, I heard PewDiePie talking, and he was just like, actually, and he's like got to be the most linked up guy with YouTube in the world. He's like, it doesn't do anything, right? So, but I think that it's interesting. So, whatever, do what you like, but do not for a second convince yourself that you can't use memory techniques because you don't have a mind's eye. You can. It's not a big deal. And if you watch my video on aphantasia and the memory palace technique, I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you beyond any doubt. There is no excuse on the planet for not being able to use location-based mnemonics and all the other tools of mnemonics, and I myself am low on the visual threshold. So when people talk about aphantasia, I cannot say that I have it. I get it though, because I don't really see that strongly in my mind either, although I have developed the ability to see a bit better over time. And it's just that investment that I talked about. If you put time and energy into it, you'll get something out of it. But if you just go around saying, I can't, hey, you know what? You're right. You can't, because you're not doing it. But if you do it and you have proper goals, and there's just a lot of interesting things that you can do for yourself by just taking action. The biggest secret is taking action and not fooling yourself, not creating illusions that you can't do something, because location-based mnemonics are not really primarily visual in the way that people tend to think they are. And it's our fault because we keep saying see in your mind or mind's eye and so forth. But really, you've got all kinds of sensory centers in your brain. I would consider myself auditory conceptual. Someone else might be more visual kinesthetic. Someone might be auditory kinesthetic. You can also be gustatory, olfactory based. You can be conceptual based, as I have a strong leaning towards, and so forth. When I'm not even a real big, strong video watcher, I just listen to the sound usually. And that is just fine. I learn great. So if you know how you learn, and that's a big secret here, is just figure out how that you learn, you can tap into memory techniques as well or even better than other people. And so I really admire people who just get over the objections, because there aren't any except for the ones that you create yourself. Remember, be all in. And that means entering the matrix, or leaving the matrix, as the case may be, and seeing just how deep the rabbit hole goes. But you've got to be like Neo in the Matrix, and you've got to overcome your objections and just be all in. Those objections are not real. They are invented. So what is going on here when we get past the location-based mnemonics element, and when we get ourselves to the level of actually memorizing something? We've got a memory palace. We've understood what location-based mnemonics are all about. We found our way to how we're going to create memory palaces because we've jumped into the memory palace creation pool. I give very, very strong direction on how to do that, and it's magical. It works. There's a reason why it works, and do it and find your way, and you'll be able to link images with locations. Now, images, again, do not necessarily need to be visual. They can be, in my case, very strongly oriented to being auditory conceptual. And then what you want to do is you want to make sure that the sound and the meaning in the images that you create, they leap out at you. The image that you encode, it's called encoding, it allows you to recall the sound and the meaning of the word and the phrase. So you don't want to be like Stephen Hawking here and say, well, it was probably magnets. It probably sounded like magnets. The meaning was probably magnets. No, you want great clarity there. You want to recall instantly the sound and the meaning of whether it's ancient Greek or it's Latin or it's French or whatever. You want that. Now, this is the thing with ancient Greek and Latin. I mean, who knows really with great integrity what those things are supposed to sound like, right? But there are some clues, and there's some great reasons to still focus on the sounds of these words and phrases. And even if you don't, ever speak it, still speak it, because the big five of language learning tells us you got to use your memory, you got to read, write, speak, and listen in order to use all the processing systems that we have at our disposal to help encode things that we want to learn into long-term memory. So it's a huge principle here. And I can tell you that people have questions about this. The answer is always go to the manual if you need to study again, and watch this video again if that helps, but just get started. You will learn it by doing it. It's not rocket science, and this is a bit of tough love, but the questions really aren't interesting until that you have done what Richard Feynman said, which is study as much as you can and implement as much as you can on your own, then write the description of what you tried, and then present that to the person who you want the guidance from. Chances are you will have created all the guidance that you need, and everything that I do and teach is oriented towards getting you to write that description first, because I'm very confident you will solve all your own problems by writing the description of what you've understood and what you've implemented on your own to the fullest possible extent before that you ask the question. That's not because I don't want to answer the questions. It's because I know that the answer is in taking action based on the manual. So the principle is, I hope, very clear to understand. You build a memory palace. You understand spatial memory. Then what you do is you link the sound and the meaning of the memory palace to a space, a place in space that you have visited ideally. And then you go back and then you decode those images and you recall them. It's really good. It's really easy. We're going to look at an example of this coming up soon. The number one thing, though, that happens is that people get frustrated. They get themselves all bent out of shape, and that's not helpful. It's not useful. It is something that really, really causes a lot of problems, and I wish that it wouldn't be that way. So I teach a lot of relaxation, deep muscle relaxation, and deep breathing relaxation that calms the mind, slows the mind, lets all of your creativity come up, and prevents you from getting frustrated, because obviously you can't learn if you're screaming at the sky. Those things in the sky that are called clouds, they don't do anything to you. There's no point in yelling at them. Just be calm, be cool, be relaxed. Always be cool. ABC. Always be cool. If you do get frustrated, just go back to first gear. Find first gear. There's a set of steps that can be executed in order. Part of those steps will be in the manual. Part will be what you discover as a self-directed learner, and you'll be able to work the gear and find your way back. And sometimes, you know what? It's just that you skipped second gear. You don't even have to go back to first gear. You just need to go back to second gear, and you'll learn the gears, and you'll be able to find your way back. But if you have to go back to first gear, just go back to first gear. Go back to first principles. Elon Musk is always talking about first principles, and there's a reason why they're working real good for him, and they'll work good for you too. And then, make sure you're actually giving all the recommendations a try. So someone has put a set of recommendations for you, regardless of whether it's magnetic memory method or anything else. If you're not getting results, ask yourself, did I actually go through all 10 gears or all 15 gears or all 3 gears, whatever the case may be? And you'll often find when you go back to the manual that you skipped a step or you didn't pay enough attention to a step. And it's really super important that you just do like what the tennis players do. Just check your strings, and play with the racket, and then turn back to the game and wait for the next ball to be thrown, and then make your swing, Don't get frustrated. Just keep going. Go back to the manual. Give everything a try. And then repeat the process. You will grow, and you will grow, and you will grow. And if after a number of failures it really isn't for you, no problem. It's no big deal. You can come back to it years later. I have correspondence from several people who said, it just wasn't the right timing, but for some reason I got called to come back to it a year later, and then all of a sudden, boom, everything made sense. So don't think that it's not working because of the technique. It might be you. And seriously, you have to consider that it might just be not the right timing for you. So don't throw it away for eternity and blame it or even blame yourself. Just understand that timing is an issue. It's real. And just flag it for later. Put on a calendar. Use a mnemonic calendar if you like. But come back to the instructions. You'll probably find that they were just fine and the timing was just not right. So that's a key sort of thing. Now, let's look at this Meraki word. It's a Greek word, and it's a really potent and powerful word. And I used a memory palace. We're not going to get into the memory palace as such here because we want to just think about it conceptually. So I'm not going to show you one of mine, but I'm going to show you the imagery that I used for this. And the principle is that we're going to remember the sound and the meaning of the word at the same time. So what is this here? Meraki. Meraki. That was the question. Is it Meraki or Meraki? So I happened to be blessed to know some Greek speakers, and some of them pronounce it with this kind of may sound, and some were more like a mer sound. So what am I going to do about this? Well, I'm not going to get hung up on it. I'm just going to remember both, right? And then I'm just going to keep using it and ask people, hey, how would you pronounce this? What do you think is the better pronunciation? So it seems to me that in my investigation, speaking with people, that it's more like Meraki, but I think it's somewhere between this. So I got Yoda and a horse, and it's not just any horse, but it's actually the Four of Diamonds horse that is belongs to Johnny Cash. If you ever heard the Tennessee Mare, that's a beautiful, beautiful song, and it's associated with my Four of Diamonds. Also, Piers Anthony's Nightmare from the Xanth series. I mean, this is the thing with mnemonics, is that you compound and you make things real super powerful by compounding. So we got Yoda on this horse, and the reasons why that I do things the way that I do, they're interesting for you to think about, because the more that you get concrete with the image choices that you make, the more memorable they'll be, and you'll get really, really fast. A lot of people think, well, oh man, I'm not that creative, I'm not that fast, and the reality is that nobody is at the beginning. You earn it by diving in and learning how to do it, and you get real fast. So, again, Lynn Kelly, who wrote the memory code, we were talking about this, and she was quite surprised by how fast that I am, but also knows how fast you can get just by getting into the practice. Benny Lewis in Fluent in 3 Months, he talks about how he got really fast about this, how much easier and how much more fun it becomes. It becomes more and more fun the more that you do it, creating these images. And I can give you a big tip, and it's where a lot of people go wrong, is that they just use abstractions. And you want real things that you really, really know, that you've spent time with. So why does something like Yoda come to mind so fast? Well, I use Yoda all the time in my mnemonics. Why does this horse, why do I just happen to have an instant like, hey, mare, I got that, right? Well, it's because I have been in this and done this, and I have it's not just any mare, it's the Nightmare from Piers Anthony's Xanth series. It's the Tennessee Stud, the Tennessee Mare. It's just the song. It's Johnny Cash. It's all very, very specific. So those specific tools make it much more memorable, and that can then be popped onto a location, either a tree or a memory palace or whatever. The more real that location is, the better. And then I just go, hey, what was going on there? Oh, it was Yoda saying May the 4th, or the Force, or whichever. It's actually May when I'm recording this, so May the 4th be with you, or, mare, and it's somewhere in between there. And it just leaps back so much faster because of how concrete and specific it is. Now, what about this rack thing? Well, what if Yoda on his horse is racking a shotgun, right? And what if he's shooting keys? Well, now we've got the sound, right? Now, how is this meaning going to come out there? Well, he's doing it from the heart. He's doing it with all his personality, right? And he's actually saying, Meraki the 4th be with you, right? And that's what Yoda is. It's his essence, it's his being. And that's what this word means, is to bring something of yourself to the work, to bring your authentic personality, your love and your passion to the work. So it is kind of like I still got to learn this. And this is how you learn. You practice pronunciation from memory, not, from holding books in front of yourself when you go into a hotel or a restaurant. You do it from memory, and you just ask people, does that sound right to you? What are the other ways that I might pronounce it? And this is just, hey, it's the investment of time and energy into what you want to learn, right? And with language learning, that's the name of the game. I'm doing Chinese right now, and man, pronunciation is it's amazing. But you get it into your memory, and if you use images like this, that can happen real fast. And then you use the basis of memory to practice pronunciation, which then builds your muscle memory in your mouth. Fantastic stuff. Now, understand the real secrets here, right? Taking action. Have I announced how important that is yet? Have I unpacked that secret strongly enough? Have I really gotten that into your mind? Well, I hope so, because that's what's going to make the difference. If you can just do that, then you can conquer everything that you want. I mean, it's just, you got to understand really, and it's a contract you make yourself, do you really want it? And if you really want it, then the answer is just taking action, and do it consistently and show up. Do an ongoing study and analysis of the action that you're taking. If you can show up, do an ongoing study and analysis of the action that you're taking, then the actions that you take will get better and better over time. Will there be challenges? Will there be obstacles? Of course, this is reality. Who knows when some nut job is going to do something crazy in the world? This morning I unfortunately saw on the news that some crazy bad thing happened, and it made me have an emotional reaction. And you know what? I just thought, that really sucks. Get back to work. And it's influenced me. I'm very sensitive to that kind of stuff, and I dislike it. But the action continues, and you just got to keep taking action, And I study the things that I do, and I go, oh, well, this was the result of that. That was the result of this. I only memorized 3 words yesterday, and one of them I didn't quite pronounce properly. My wife was dissatisfied with the pronunciation. So think about it. And I go back to the manual, right? Was the imagery strong enough to recall the pronunciation just so that I can follow the score. It's like you're performing a musical instrument. You're reading these images from your mind and you're performing them like an instrument. And then, of course, you want to use the big five of language learning. So get it in a phrase if you didn't memorize a phrase in the first place, which you can do. And that's a good practice to get into as quickly as possible. But you also want to build, the building from the floor up. So individual words are really great. They're a great basis for learning how to get yourself to full phrase memorization. But you still need to know what individual words mean. And that's how you're going to understand what grammar is, right? It's because you know individual words, you know entire phrases, and then you begin to perceive not just the concept of the rules, but you understand the rules from the inside because you've internalized examples that those rules exemplify. So you got to, in other words, make this a near daily practice, if not a daily practice, so that you take consistent action and then you become the observer of your action and you do it in an ongoing way. And then get involved and improve over time through your involvement. How do you get involved? Leaving comments, describing what you're doing. Not, just, hey, great video. Why waste that time and energy? How about, thank you for that video. I learned something. Here's what I did. 1, da 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 da. 2, da 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 da. 3, ba 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 ba. And then you can actually say, you know what? I chose this word to memorize, or I chose these 10 words to memorize because I wanted this outcome from those words. And that is a meaningful goal to me because, and the more that you frame things with meaning, with intent, with purpose, with passion, and you're involved and you're communicating what it is you're doing and why you're doing it, the more that people are going to be like, and they might actually answer you. And then that can create some interest and energy. And then, of course, you take the risk that some, whack job is going to hit the dislike button, or they're going to leave some nasty, snarky, useless, graffiti-based comment. But that's the way the world works. And actually, you can turn the other cheek, or you could just laugh and just be relaxed. Remember, ABC, always be cool, but get involved. Find a place, find a way to be involved. Communicate, share with the world, because there are things that open up in the brain when you get past any fear or any worry of rejection, or even people just ignoring what you've said, and you just hear crickets when you put something out there. Don't worry about it, because you're going to learn a lot by just processing the information that you've learned through another system. And you can do it all privately too, okay? And that's called keeping a memory journal. But write this stuff down that you're doing. Write it down. Write it down. All wealth, I heard, comes from writing. And that doesn't just mean big bucks. It doesn't mean moolah. It means the wealth of having learned something and knowing how you learned it because you've observed your learning process and made it an ongoing study and analysis. So this is why in the big five of language learning, there's reading, writing, speaking, and listening to feed memory. And then memory, of course, feeds all of those activities. Isn't that the most exciting thing in the world? I think it is. And I know it is because it creates results. Now, on the matter of not smoking pot that Raymond mentioned, I just want to say that that video is called Marijuana Memory Palace and the Truth About Mice in Mazes. And of course, it's at least, go ahead, smoke pot. I'm not opposed to smoking pot, but don't do it in the hopes of improving your memory, because it's unlikely that it'll help. But whatever you do the things that you do with love in your heart, with Meraki, right? Bring your personality, bring your passion, bring your wonderful, wonderful, deep wells of what you want out of life, and just go and take it. Be passionate about it. Be honest, though. Be sure that you really want it. And do it with purpose, Do it with intent. Do it with the certainty that you can get what it is that you want, and go after it with purpose, because that's what's going to make the difference. And do it consistently, because you might, fluency is an interesting one. People say, my goal is I want to be fluent, right? Well, that's just not really realistic. There's no such thing as fluency. I'm not even fluent in English. I mean, I always tell my wife, don't pattern your English after mine, because I don't speak English properly. I shoot from the hip with my English, and I, for whatever reason, have picked up a lot of bad habits. So, I'll hear her sometimes saying things, and I'll be like, oh, my love, please. Don't. But the thing is, she's consistent about it, and she is developing English fluency. She's developing an understanding of English, and that's just like part of the loose canon of language learning. But be consistent to realistic goals. So I want to improve my vocabulary by 100 words, 100 words about, I don't know, computer programming, or 100 words about kitchens, or 100 words about literary theory, or whatever the case may be. 100 words about entrepreneurship in Spanish, or that lend themselves to that topic. You're going to get more fluency boosting out of that narrow focus and all the things that that's going to bring, so long as you show up consistently, than just say, I want to be fluent, right? You can't be consistent to a goal that huge. You've got to narrow it down, and you've got to pick frames and limits. The rules will set you free. Pick a rule, 10 words by the end of the month, and then show up consistently. You'll get it. It's easy. Now, application, of course, is the thing that makes it easy, and you've got to believe in yourself. Believing is the first secret to success. And that Yoda example is very pertinent, because he's just like, do or do not. There is no try. And the other thing, though, is that believing in yourself is also not even that necessary, because you want to provide evidence that you are taking action, and you don't really need belief in yourself to do that. You just need to take action. So there's something kind of poisonous about this. There's something dangerous about belief, and that is that belief without evidence is poisonous. We don't want that. What we really want is for you to be creating evidence to believe in, so to speak. But then you have to ask yourself, do you really need to believe in what you just saw there? And the answer is no, because it's evidence. That evidence was produced by taking action, so you have proof, uncontestable proof, that you are a person capable of taking action and getting results. So belief is no longer necessary. You just keep motoring along. So check yourself before you wreck yourself, right? Get a real deep understanding of what belief really is, and be realistic about it, and just take action. Let the action speak for itself, but make sure that you're taking the right actions. Make sure you've actually read the manual. Go through it 2 times if you have to. Believe me, I'm learning right now about computer science and running my own website better, and I have to go back to the manual sometimes. All the memory techniques in the world aren't really going to eliminate that. Sometimes you've got to check that you followed every single step. And I have learned that you can get real deep in the weeds. But I'm not waiting for myself to believe in myself. I am creating evidence that is absolutely uncontestable that I can do these things. And I've built several websites in my day. So the evidence is mounting up. And for me to say I can't is just a blunt force lie that serves nobody. So check yourself before you wreck yourself. Now, understand too that people change. And I mentioned this before. Timing is different. Timing is different. So you might not show up as the same person every single day, every single time. And so if it's not working for you, which means that you're not working it's a two-way dance, right? It's a two-way street. And we can never place the responsibility on a technique out in the world and say, it doesn't work, right? You have to understand that we change over time. And so you can change. If you feel that you're not able to pick up these techniques now, you can change yourself to become the kind of person who can. You just have to want it. You just have to create evidence by taking action that proves beyond a doubt that you actually are the kind of person who can do that. And you will change as you go along. So it's a little bit of, visioning at some level, but not visioning too much, and visioning very realistically. So, they always say, okay, you want to be pumped? Imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger walking in the door, or you looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger walking in the door. Well, that's a great way to discourage yourself, because there are a lot of miles between most of us and Arnold Schwarzenegger-sized muscles, right? But imagining yourself getting up and putting on your shoes, right? Now that is a little bit more practical. And you can vision that and then put on your shoes, get the evidence that you put on your shoes, and then go to the gym or go for a walk or whatever it is that you're going to do. But don't try to change yourself too much. All you got to do really is just create a memory palace and say, there, I've proven that I can create a memory palace. This crazy guy, Anthony Metivier from magneticmemorymethod.com, he's saying that actually I need to create maybe 10 so that I understand the process as he's talking about it, and that might help me. Well, then you've proven to yourself you can do 1. I got worksheets that help you create 26, which I think is a really great number to achieve. And you don't have to do it all in one day, although many people find that they can. And you don't just do it. Become the kind of person that takes action and gets results. You can change. So check yourself before you wreck yourself. Understand the truth about belief and success, and understand that you can become the person you want to become. And if you want to be a person with superior memory, there are many paths to doing that. I think I got one of the finest on the block, and I welcome you to it. And the next step really is, don't spend your life thinking about this stuff. Just make up your mind that you're going to do it. Be all in. Be all in. Isn't that an exciting thing to think about? What could happen if you just stop thinking and start taking action? It's amazing. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, then I'm just going to cut to the chase here and say, you've been offered the free memory course. Just go to magneticmemorymethod.com, sign up for that. If you want to take a faster version of the memory course, you don't have to sign up at all. Go to magneticmemorymethod.com/kit. That's KIT. magneticmemorymethod.com/kit, KIT, and you will just see a video training. It will walk you through everything, and you don't have to sign up for it or anything like that. And then there'll be some options for you if you're interested in future options as well. And it's an amazing thing that can happen for you just by following the recommendations in this free training. And there's a whole universe behind that, if you like. And I invite you to take a serious glance at it in your own time. But remember that time is a resource that is always slipping away. And every day that you're not taking action on improving your memory, you're leaving behind so much of the rich pleasure, the intellectual pleasure, the accomplishment that comes from better memory. You're just leaving it behind. And you can have it all. You can have Meraki, and you need to bring Meraki to get Meraki. And so I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it for you. I really love that you showed up for this, and I appreciate you very much, and I can't wait until we speak again. And until that we speak again, keep yourself magnetic, and visit me over at magneticmemorymethod.com/kit. That's KIT. Take care and much love. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.